Storage webinar series. I'm Poppy Behrens, co-publisher of Minico Publishing, and we're delighted to have you in the audience today. This is one of several informative webinars planned for self-storage owners, operators, managers, investors, developers, and other industry professionals. The sponsor of today's webinar is NDS Construction, a member of the Bulverde, Texas-based Parham Group, which also includes Noah's Ark Development, Maverick Investments, Cross Metal Buildings, and Joshua Management. Our presenter is Mike Parham, the CEO and president of NDS Construction. Mike is a general contractor who specializes in the design and construction of self-storage facilities. He has been in the self-storage industry for more than 25 years, and during that time has built over 7 million square feet nationwide. Mr. Parham is also the founder and president of Noah's Ark Development, which provides consulting, joint ventures, third-party development, site analysis, feasibility analysis, and market feasibility. This January will mark the 30th anniversary of Mini Storage Messenger, providing the self-storage industry with in-depth news and information. Each issue of Messenger offers cover stories and feature articles on the most timely industry topics and trends. Monthly columns contributed by industry experts and accomplished business professionals address a wide range of topics including security, facility operations, technology, legal issues, legislative updates, construction, and development. We also publish a variety of other self-storage data sources, such as the ones you see on your screen. For more information about these publications and products, please visit ministoragemessenger.com. During today's presentation, we invite you to submit questions. These can be submitted throughout the webinar. To do so, simply type your question in the question area and click Send. Depending on the question asked, we will either answer it privately or to the entire group. While we will try to answer as many questions as we can during the question and answer period at the end of the webinar, those that cannot be answered due to time constraints will be answered later by email. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on demand from our archives at ministoragemessenger.com. Today's presentation should run about 45 minutes, with the remainder of the hour open to questions. And now I have the distinct pleasure of turning the presentation over to Mike. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. Thank you, Poppy. Appreciate everyone who's attending. The purpose of today's seminar is basically to give you a complete sequence of events during construction from the time of conceptually planning the project through some of the typical items of design, but mainly, more importantly, the sequence of events that has to do during construction. Outside of the purpose, we're going to use a case study of a Noah's Ark self-storage project in Landstar Boulevard that is 5 acres. It cost basically $1 million. The square footage was 101,000, and we basically had 50% climate control and then versus climate and non-climate control. The slide you're looking at now is an aerial photograph of the site, which is located in Orlando. The bottom of the slide shows a tollway, which is called 417. You'll see a British Petroleum mobile oil station, a McDonald's, and then the 5 acres is basically outlined where the green still exist. That's how the site starts when you first look at it. We're going to talk about visualization of building elevations. We're going to talk about visualizing the project before and getting a general idea before you see it being built. This is a rendering of how the project is supposed to look once designed. You'll notice that it shows the landscaping, it shows the exterior elevations of the buildings, it shows the ends of the buildings, signage. All these are a general idea or a real good idea of what's going to happen when you completely finish this project. It's also a visualization of use of colored site plan renderings, which we're going to go to next. And the color site plan rendering kind of gives you a general idea of the landscaping. It's going to be used when you start to talk to any of your zoning boards. Again, here you go. This is like looking at the aerial. It's showing where your buildings are placed, where your landscaping is located. Shows you the mobile oil that's on that side in 417. It gives you a visual side of that. The first month is for site work. And we're going to go through all the aspects of site work. So as a new owner, if you're hiring a general contractor or anyone, you kind of get a general idea. This is an aerial of what happened the first month. As you'll notice, the brown areas are where they actually have excavated and brought in fill to start building pads. They've cut their driveways. They're starting to excavate for storm drainage and utilities. And so this is, after 30 days, this is just at the beginning, and you'll see where we're going into the next month. We're start seeing at this time it's taking a little while here for some reason. You have your site contractor comes out. He's basically cutting all your driveways. You also will start with you have your concrete contractor also starts at the end of this month, and that's where they come in and start putting in batter boards. You'll see that they're starting to stockpile spoils and getting ready to fine-tune and grade the project before we start putting in the concrete slabs, which is the next month. Also, you'll notice that storm drainage goes in. You'll see that they're already starting to mark off their slabs with batter boards, which is used for laying in your slabs later on. But the storm drainage is going in. They're fine grading. You'll also, the water and sewer lines are basically going through the project. And all those are done before you start getting into to start doing your slabs. But slabs could be going on at the same time. Stormwater work, you're going to be, in most places in the United States now, you have to tie into the detention pond, and detention ponds are where they store water coming off your project, so you don't increase that, and that's part of that. So the first month, you're really basically going into site work. The second month of this project, you're seeing a combination of still site work, but the main category is concrete. And the first part you're going to see is, again, we're starting with, you'll see that an aerial of the project. In the aerial, you'll see that several of the slabs have been done. You'll see that there's site work still going on pads that haven't been completed. You're seeing form work going on in the areas that are getting ready to start, putting in for concrete. And, of course, steel work's just started already. At the top of the project, you can also see 417, which is a tollway. This has 60,000 cars a day. You'll notice here again, you'll see what's going on is the batter boards. You're putting up your form boards. They're starting to get ready to start laying steel when you start doing the concrete. I'm going to show you some certain particular details that are related to self-storage that you really want to pay attention to when you do. The most important aspect is get a surveyor to lay these things out when you put your batter boards in, and before you pour, you make sure that everything's level. Here's some more again where you're seeing batter boards. You're actually the form boards going in, and they're starting to fine grade inside the batter boards for start laying out steel and start doing their grade beams. At the same time, you'll see at this point they've already dug their grade beams. They're already starting to tie their steel. What you're looking at is an area where the restrooms are in the building, and also you're going to see later on some places that have where the mechanical rooms for elevators. This is a typical type of self-storage slab where you see the grade beams along the side with the steel in it. In this particular time, they're tying steel. They're getting ready to elevate it on high chairs, what they call it later, to get the steel up into the slab, which are normally 4 to 4.5 inch slabs unless they're multi-level. And you see they've already done the grade beams, and they're already working on the steel, and they're getting ready to back out of that and to start pouring. When they place concrete, you'll notice that we use a concrete pump. You don't have to. You can pour from the sides with the backing of the truck stop, but it makes it a heck of a lot easier. And when you're doing a hot climate like Florida or Texas, we usually start early in the morning, like 3 or 4 in the morning if we're allowed to, and pour. So we want to get it down quick and get on top of it before it gets hot. That keeps you from having hydration cracks in your slabs. You'll notice along the side here that there are some what's called a brick lug that has a 2x8 or a 2x12, depending on what slab you're on, that is basically been put in to give you a door space so that when your door goes in after you build a building, it falls down on this lip and keeps water from coming up on the slab. You notice that they're just now at a point where they're running a bull float, which basically levels out your concrete and gets it ready for when they start pulling or power screeding. This one is at the same slab, and they're taking just now finishing the final pour on it. You can get a better idea of the brick lug and how important that is. If you see on the other side down here, they've already started to rip off that lug. And the reason why we do that is just as the concrete starts to get green, we rip off that lug and we hand trowel it out so all your door entries are just beautiful and smooth, and they have a little bit of a fall, so any water that lands on the door comes down and runs off into your driveway areas. That is the best way to keep from having water back up on your slabs. You'll notice that they're also getting ready for another slab. Here's one that's just being poured and finalized at the same time. You can get a little better idea of the lug out here is that they've spaced it out at 12 inches in this particular case. And they're going to pull this off a little later on and hand trowel this out so you've got beautiful door openings between your doors. You'll notice that an individual here is standing in what is an area that's called a ramp, and we're going to show you, I'm going to show you how to do those ramps properly because they make a big difference when you have interior hallways. Here's one last deal, the last slab that's being poured, and they're dragging the concrete across, and you're using the screen board to basically give it to get it leveled off before you basically bull float. And you can see what kind of mess it is until you get to that point. But as soon as it gets finished, it'll take somewhere in the neighborhood of 24 hours to 7 to 24 hours, depending on the weather and how much moisture you have before you can really get on it and start to build on. Here you see a slab that we haven't pulled the forms yet, but you can see the brick lugs and how clean they are. You'll see the plumbing that's in here for basically condensate lines for your mechanical, because on this particular building, the inside hallways are where your climate control is going to be, and those are where it's going to pick up all your condensate. Here's one of the ramp pictures I wanted to show you. This is how it's done. Basically, we make sure that we start from the high end and come down. So at the bottom of the ramp's at the bottom of the drop in a building. The reason why is that keeps you from having ever to step down into a unit. You have to step up, and that's a safety issue. You notice he has to come out and basically hand trowel it and work his way back out of it. The third month, building framing. That is the number one. There's still concrete going on, but the critical activity that's going on right now is building framing. That's putting up your metal buildings. Here's the aerial. You'll notice that right after concrete goes, the buildings are going right up. And in fact, there's only 3 buildings that haven't even started yet. And their concrete's getting ready to be done, but you'll see one off to the right that's just now being framed. The others have already had their standing seam roofs put on, and there's another one being framed off, and projections that I'll show you in a minute are being started. This kind of gives you a real good idea that you do concrete, and as soon as the concrete's dry, you can get right on it with your metal buildings because they don't really put a lot of bearing pressure on the slabs. By the 28th day, your slabs are going to be at a point that within 98% of where they're going to be 500 years from now anyway, in the way of strength. This is a picture of a slab just completed. You'll see that the columns are being laid out. This is called a 5x10 grid system. If you look over to the side of it, you'll see every 10 feet there's a door, and then what you'll notice is that every 5 feet across the building is a column that's holding up a purlin. You'll see some better pictures in a minute. But it's stacked. Each one of these is pre-cut to whatever the roof slope is, so that you can get the slopes in your roof. And they're just like almost like Tinker Toys. You bring them off the truck and you set them up and frame them. After you pop the lines, you'll see the clips in the slabs that hold up the bottom of the first columns that are going up. This gives you a little better idea. You can see this is a ramp, so this slab has some drops in it and they're going up. And you can see that every 5 feet they're going across with a column, which is eventually holding up a purlin. And there you see the partition wall going across, which is basically actually your bracing. This is the typical way that over 95% of all facilities in this country have been done since the mid-1980s. It's the most cost-effective and most done by most of your steel suppliers. Here again, another building we're just finishing up. Here again shows every 10 feet you have a column. In between you have an 8-foot 8-inch door. And then you'll see the columns every 5 feet, and then the partitions holding it up. That's the 5x10 grid, and the standing seam roof, which they're now just finalizing on this building. And as you'll see it, that's going up at the same time we're doing concrete. You can see that at this point we're pretty close to getting doors done. This is an interior hallway of a climate control building. At the same time, once we frame it, we're framing out the interior hallways. We've come in and done all the hallways, and we'll do the doors, and some of the doors are up and going on. You'll notice a firewall, which is located right here, and you have a hollow metal door that's going in, and you see some other further down the line. We haven't put in any electricity. That's just now being done and the mechanical work hasn't been done, and that's done right after the hallway system goes in. Month 4 is building and framing and roofing. It's building, framing, and roofing. We're going on a little farther with the building framing, which usually takes about anywhere from 6 weeks to 8 weeks on most projects. Here you have your aerial. You'll notice that we just had one slab poured. The last slab poured. We have all buildings up with roofs except one, and this is a building that's 2-story. And it's 2-story for the main reason is that we're using it all for climate control, and also we want the advertising we can do that you'll see later on that faces the overpass of 60,000 car a day overpass. You'll notice also the detention pond in the background. That's where we're tying in with all our storm drainage. And you'll notice that pretty much the site is at grade. There'll have to be some site work done a little later. You'll notice also at the top here that we're also putting the trim pieces that are also the gutters. We lay them up on top of the building until we start putting them in, and the downspouts, which is the last thing we put in after asphalt or concrete paving. And so you'll see also the layout of the steel that's getting ready to go up for the second floor. In this next sequence, you'll see that decking that's going on. That's where we are at the beginning of this month. This is an elevator stairwell. This has to be done at the very beginning and then brought up as we do. This is this 2-story building. This is where your elevator is going to sit, a hydraulic elevator. You're going to see how this thing finishes out later in the finishing pictures. Here again, you see your purlings going up on either side of it. This is going to hold a deck on either side, which basically holds up your next floor. You'll see basically block. We do all of our stairwells and our elevator wells out of block. It's a lot easier. At the same time, you'll notice we're starting to fine grade our drives. We still have a building going up. That's one of the closer ones up to the highway. But, we're starting to fine-tune everything. This building that's not finished will be up in about 5 days, and it'll start trimming out. You'll see the doors are coming up. You'll see that the headers are going in, and you'll also see what we call entry exterior add-ons that kind of spice up the project. They're just now going on. This is an entryway into the climate control building. You'll also notice that we've had a little rain, which is not uncommon. You'll see also the gutters are starting at this point. Now, this gives you a good roofline picture of the project from the very start of the entryway into it. And you'll see that all the standing seam roofs are up on the project right now. The 2-story is still not finished. You'll notice that there might be gutters going up, but we don't put any downspouts on. You'll notice that the headers that come from the door companies are in. And by the way, this particular project, we have hurricane-rated headers and doors, which are take a lot more time to frame in. You'll start also seeing some of the projections they're coming in to get the architectural appeal, and you'll also notice that it looks like it's getting ready to rain again, which is kind of common there. The next photo is going to give you a general idea of, again, how the roofs work. But right over here, this is not a roof. This is the second floor decking that has just been put down. We're going to pour concrete on, and as soon as we start putting our bars up, and then what will happen, we'll start up with the next floor. Again, you'll see the standing seam roof. You'll see a ridge line here because this is a very large building in the way of width. Second floor framing, month 5. The project now, as you see from the aerial, is just getting close to being finished. You'll notice that the second-story building is just now going up. Most of the projections are done. The project's pretty much being fine-graded out. You'll see end walls that are going up on the buildings. You'll see that the apartment office is just now starting. We had to wait because of a little thing we had to do with the entitlement process before we could finalize it. This gives you a good general idea. But most of this month is cleaning up, punching out, and finishing the 2-story building. Again, you'll notice the first-story building. You'll notice the projections that are showing. These will actually be windows that go through and show fake doors from the highway that'll have lights on them, so they'll know exactly that's a self-storage project. You also notice we're starting to clean up around the project. This gives you a little better shot of the elevator alcove that's going up. We're just now getting our purlins up, and we're going to start the roof pretty soon. At the same time, we're on the first floor doing hallways and cleaning up the hallways and getting ready to go upstairs to finish that and do the roofing on the second floor. This is probably, this is one of the stairwells you're going to have on 2-story. You're going to have stairs leading up to the second floor, and this is an extremely important fire issue. You're going to have rails in that haven't been put on yet, but this is going to have to be a 2-hour firewall assembly. As you can see, that's being framed right now, and because that's where people are going to go if something happens to the project, which is already sprinklers, still going to the stairwells to come out. So this is going to be a major item to be inspected by just about any jurisdiction. Here's your hallways again. You'll notice that right now there's a fire damper through one of the firewalls. You'll notice that the headers are starting to go in. We're starting to clean. The doors are just now going in also. Hot melt door frames are going in. The hot melt doors that are fire doors are going in. So we're getting real close on this building to finalizing the interior hallway and finalizing the ductwork for the mechanical system. At the same time, we're finishing up the final drives, cleaning them up, making sure they're fine, getting them to grade, because we're very short time to asphalt, and we're just finalizing that. The month 6 is still site work, building exterior finish, and that particular month is probably one of the most criticals because you're not only starting some new things, but at the same time you're doing a lot of punch out, which is probably the hardest thing to remember. As you can see, we've gone a long way in that last month. We've gone through and gotten the asphalt down. The end walls are coming in, and you can see that. The doors are basically on. And the headers, the projections are being finished. You can see the projections just being finished on the 2-story building. And we're finishing the doghouse for the elevator. So in the office is just now being framed, and we're just now starting fencing and all the little site requirements that are going on. This point is where one of the big things about construction is the last 5% is the hardest and the longest to do, and we're getting to that point. This is a shot of the exterior elevations of the office. It's just now being finished with the stucco. It'll be painted in the next several days. You'll notice that some of the landscaping is already starting to go in. We've got our entry approach that's already in. You will see there's a lot of work going on in the inside in just a second. You'll notice that's the cabinet. That's the area where the office is. You'll have the security cabinets in the back. We're just now putting in the roofs and everything else, and start working on the retail areas where we go through and plan out where our boxes and locks and everything else. So you're basically seeing about less than 30 days away from being finished in the office. And this is another area for the retail. And you'll notice looking out the window that landscaping is already going on, so we're getting ready. The end walls, you can see, we're starting to move excess materials off-site. We're starting to clean everything else up. We're starting to do the last part of the trims as it relates to gutters. And we're finalizing the asphalt, which is basically had already been done this month. This is just one piece that was finished, is just now being finished. Landscaping going in, just now finished in the office. The landscaping's going in. This is one of the critical areas in Florida because it's inspected. Every tree where it's located, everything has to completely, totally pass and be in the right location before it's going to be, you get your certificate of occupancy. You notice at the entryway we're putting the gate. Right now we're putting in a slide gate in this particular project because of we have a lot of bad winds, and so we're not basically wanting to use a lift gate, which we do in most other places. You'll notice everybody's just kind of cleaning up, finalizing, and starting packing up their materials. We're going to get a little better shot later of how this finishes up and why it's so important. You'll see that the stucco is being done. We haven't final painted a lot of the areas. We're cleaning out the units. And we're finishing the architectural details. Again, this is that framing that showed you where the fake doors are going to be seen from the highway. And right behind it is the climate control side of this two-story building. You notice also that we got our fencing up. Our wrought iron's going up. We got our columns going up. Our mechanical people are just now finishing up, and we're just really cleaning up the project and doing the last part of the landscaping. We're going to show you what it looks like to be pretty much less than 30 days away just in a second when this thing changes. This is the actual elevator staging area, and we're just now finishing that off, and we're going to be trimming it off and finishing up the mechanical rooms and the doors that go into climate control. You'll see the slide doors we're just putting in there, kind of grocery store door type doors. We're finishing up our electrical finish out, and all this is going to have halls and be totally trimmed out and insulated so that people can get right straight out of the rain and in if they need to in this area. You'll notice, too, the hallways. We're putting in the soffits now. We like to use the soffits that have the lights in them. It just makes a big difference. It keeps them from being hit. We're getting ready to put our emergency lighting in. We're getting ready to put a lot of different extras I'll show you in a minute. So the mechanical, since this soffit's going up, the mechanical is already done and has been inspected. And you'll notice we're just finishing up the electricity, and that's what's going on right now, plus a little punch out. So notice this first floor because that's the second floor deck to the two-story building. The landscaping is just finishing up, and the columns are now up, and everything that we had to do by code and for zoning. And we've got to go back and do some painting, but all the exterior elevation stuff that faces the street that identifies us as a self-storage project we're just finishing up. Now, the end of month 7, we're at final completion. This is where the last 2 months really pays off, and that's punching out, managing your subs properly, and this is the end result. You'll notice that as we go through this, you'll notice that all the buildings are done, the place is clean, and we're open for business. During that course, across the street, a new fire station's gone in, which really helped us on our insurance. But we got 2 major traffic generators right beside us, and we have all the visibility in the world. That's what our office turned out. So those are our colors and the signage and the landscaping. And you'll see the palm trees, which are full bloom out now, but this is at the end of the landscaping and the part of that office. This is the interior you saw a while ago, which we finished up. You'll notice that this is where they sit down and do their leasing and everything else. They'll can look and see all the security cameras that are on the project and get a general idea of what's going on, and which is a major selling point, by the way, of them being able to see that. Excuse me. This This is our retail area. It hasn't been totally filled out yet, but it's a retail area where we sell all your locks and boxes and all your storage and all your moving supplies and a lot of other things that we're now starting to do that might be candles, it might be things for women, perfumes, and a bunch of other things that are starting to do that. Retail sales can make up a big part of your sales. This is, again, a look at the cameras. When they're sitting and looking at lease, they're actually seeing those cameras work, and they're flipping back and forth, so they can get a general idea that anywhere they go on that property, they're going to be seeing whether it's on the inside or the outside. I would highly recommend this because it's a major marketing tool, especially the placement where it can be seen. Now, here's your entrance. This is the sliding gate. You'll see your keypads. A couple of big details I want you to understand is that you'll notice how clean these bollards are. They're bollards. Those are 6-inch bollards that are filled with concrete, buried in the ground, and then that's a plastic cap that you can buy for $35 that slips right over, and you can slip them on and off, but look how clean they are. You'll notice that the keypad here is set back so that if anybody hits these bollards, you're still not going to rake off the keypad. That keypad is extremely important to your project. If it gets damaged, it can really kind of shut you down for a while. So it's real important that it sets back an inch or two to the center line of each one of those bollards. You'll also notice that there is a pedestrian gate, and you'll see that there are other bollards all around the project. And by the way, we put bollards up anywhere a possible building can be hit by somebody turning a car. You'll notice also that our drives are extremely big, and we try to do that, especially when we have large units. Here's a project, a photo of the last building, the 2-story building, as you'll see over in the corner. But again, you'll see the striping's been done. You'll see the turning radius are shown in for the fire marshal. You'll see cameras up. You'll see cameras that are different locations to pick up different places. You'll see the fire extinguishers are up and have been inspected. The downspouts are inspected, and we're pretty clean, as you can see. And also the building letters are up, so it's pretty much finished. You'll also you'll see the final elevations that faced Highway 417 that we wanted. You see the signage. We're now open. You can see the units. It's during the middle of the day, but at night the lights are on. You can see those units. You can also see the bollards in front of the area to come into the elevator, and those doors automatically open when somebody comes up. We have carts that are so inside. You see the signage that goes on. You also see the fire lanes, so we can actually the person can be off and be close to the building and be outside of any traffic. You can also see this from the same deal. This is the highway over here. This is the wrought iron fencing that goes. You can see through. Here's the 2-story building. This is the fire lane. You can notice there's a lot of area still left where people can park. That again to the interior of the building. Any one of these openings are openings into climate control. So that's one of the big areas is that you have to leave areas for the climate control areas for people to get in, because the only way you can have climate control is go down a hallway. This is where the staging area for going upstairs and for going on the first floor. This is the big double doors, which grocery doors are open up. You'll notice that this is just a mechanical room. This is our elevator. When you push it, you have to have a code to be able to go to the second floor. You'll notice here, too, if you're going on the first floor, you have to have a code. And so nobody can go in the first, second, fourth unless they have a unit there at all. You can also notice that we've also painted the floors. This is what the stairwell finally looks like. Not too many people are going to ever go down this, but it's real important that basically it's done and inspected. And these colors are just general colors. They make it look kind of nice, though, instead of doing your reds and everything else. This will be inspected, heavily inspected by your fire marshal. These are 2 hallways. You'll notice that in the hallways we've gone back in and sealed the floors. Sometimes we use colors and sometimes we don't. You'll notice that the partition systems of how they go, and so you've got a light every 5 to 10 feet. You'll notice also that we use a stripe in our doors all the way down. We do that to break up the starkness of the white, of all being white. We like the rest of the white because it helps create. The darker colors soak the light up, and you don't really have the brightness to it. We also put windows in as anywhere we can. This is actually a storefront door. We usually do not use hollow metal doors to come in because we want women who are going to come in to be able to see down and see that there's not anybody there. You'll notice that right here is a convex mirror where a person can walk down and they can see somebody down a hallway. And so that's real important, especially from a security standpoint. The lights also are on motion detectors, so what happens is you get to a certain portion, they come on as it senses you, but they all don't come on. And so it just kind of stages as you walk down, lights going all the way down. You also notice that a lot of times we'll put in, when we do interior hallways, we'll name the hallways after streets in the area, so people can identify they're actually going to an address instead of a unit number. But those are pretty clean hallways, and those are climate control. And the ductworks you can't even see. Here's another shot of that. The ductworks up here, you can see a ductwork training over to a unit that basically is the maintenance unit. As you'll notice how clean that is, it's not so stark because of the deal. Look at the floors. You've got an entry going this way, so people can basically see, especially women can see if anybody's coming from the other side. But this is a large majority of how most are done. That's the finish of the project, but let's kind of take a look at it from plans to how we started out from concept to the actual project itself. There was the concept of a landscape plan that basically kind of gave you a general idea of the layout. That's the layout. That's how the building's laid out on the property. You see the mobile oil. You see the entranceway where our office is. Now, at the same time, when you're looking at, here's the greenway you saw a few minutes ago, and this is the two-story building. Now, how did that look? How did it turn out? Well, let's take a look at it from an aerial standpoint. Okay, that's the aerial. Pretty much the same thing. Exactly the layout that we had planned on. At the same time, you're going to see these exterior elevations. They're going to come up, and you're going to see how much the concept is to the real plan as this next picture comes up. These are the exterior elevations we looked at the very beginning. You'll notice, again, here's the two-story building. These are all the entryways in the building are their architectural effects on the end of the building. And you can see how the signage, you can see basically where we put in openings to see the doors. And there's the office, as you remember seeing. Hey, there it is again. This is exactly what happened. These are, of course, this is the entryway to the climate control into the second floor. The other entryways into the second floor also, and the first floor. This is how it looks on the two-story side of it that was planned. There's the office. There's the signage. And guess what? Everything went just according to plan. Now, I think the key to this is that I know we just went through and just saw a sequence of how things work. But the key to this really is that number one, you don't have to be a construction specialist. You don't have to be an architect. You don't have to be an engineer. You need to find the best people to do that, and they will help you through the process. I'm an engineer myself, and that helps out. But I can tell you right now, the people that we have trained and have been part of our team for a long time are what makes these projects work. And the other side of it too is the fact that an experienced architect that knows how to lay out is probably going to be the most important asset you have in this process, because everything you're doing is in a site planning, laying out a plan, and also your units is going to determine what your revenues are, and at the same time, it's going to determine what your costs are going to be. And today, one of the biggest problems we have in our business is the fact that the farther the older this business gets, the more that most of the counties and the cities want to do about limiting how much space you got on a property. When I first started getting into this business, the site plan, I could build almost 50 or 60% of floor area based on how big the property was. Now they're putting in 20% landscape buffers and a variety of different things that cut it down, and it almost makes it hard to build. The most important thing is in this particular item for you specifically is that there are a variety of different people in the industry that specialize in this, and I would find out who those people are. We do the same thing. We design and build. We do everything pretty much in-house, and we do that because we can control our cost and for our clients and everything else. But at the same time is that the key fixture is what are the revenues, what are we going to be able to lease, and how is it going to be placed on a project so that it's going to be available specifically for like commercial customers that like the large lanes in between the buildings so they can get bigger vehicles in. So how things are placed. Questions?
Mike, we actually have quite a few questions that have come in during the course of the webinar. The first one is there a ratio of return per square foot that is standard?
You heard the question. So there's not really, the question is what is usually the construction cost, okay? Construction cost in this country has basically doubled in the last 10 years because of steel. But typical projects that are slab and above and in this particular time are running, if you're talking about all nothing but single-story buildings, you're talking about ranging from $32 to $38 a square foot. That makes up 70% of your development cost, by the way. That's one of the ways of answering that, but you can't get a return on investment unless you add all the entire cost to it. If you're doing a multi-level project that's partially multi and single, you're talking about in the 40 to 42 range. Dollars per square foot. And if you're talking about all multi-level, you're probably talking closer to $48 a square foot. One of the biggest things you have to remember is the only variable cost you really have is site work. From one site to the next could be a difference of $200,000 or $300,000 depending on the availability of utilities or also what the grades are.
Okay. Next question. Does the $1 million cost include the land?
The $1 million cost I was talking about was the price of the land, period, and only the land. Okay. The construction cost on this particular project was over $4 million. This project, we do not own this project any longer. It was bought by us by one of the major REITs, and they've done extremely well. But I will tell you this, if you're taking a look at an overall return of a project, that particular project, we were looking at an annual rate of return of around over 40%. Go ahead.
Okay, the next one, let me see if I understand this one. Do you recommend fiber, concrete, or rebar in a 30 by 100 small storage unit where we will use rock for the driveway?
That's a good question. In fact, I should have brought that up earlier. You have a lot of options in concrete, and depending on where you are in the country, because the cost of concrete is, it totally depends on the availability of the things that make up concrete. But the real issue here is you do have several options, especially when you talk about reinforcing. If you're doing your grade beams in concrete, you're going to have to end up doing a lot of that with reinforcing rebar. But when you start talking about a slab that's only carrying a one-story building, and it's 4 inches or 4.5 inches, fiber mesh, I use it all the time. And fiber mesh normally saves me a little money, but more in the fact that I can get it done faster than laying all that rebar. It usually costs anywhere from $5 to $7 a yard more. But God, when it's finished, it's done, and you're not pulling rebar up and making sure that that it's up in the middle of the slab. And at the same time, when you use fiber mesh, is that I'm getting higher strengths most of the time at the 7-day break than I get other places, because I actually pour the cylinders with the fiber mesh to get an idea what that concrete mix is doing. So I would highly recommend looking at that. That can save you money and a lot of time. The only thing you got to do is you got to make sure when you're finishing that you get the fibers down. You can go back later off and burn them off, but most of the time I get the same slab either way. I might save 5 or 6 days on the other way.
All right, next question. Do you do the design or just the construction of self-storage projects?
We do both. We are design builders. NDS Construction has its own architects, engineers, and we do everything pretty much in-house or with people we have on retainer and that have done business with. We've done over 8 million square feet, and so the people that do our architectural work, normally when we get a site plan agreed to and approved by the jurisdiction, we have full construction documents out in 6 weeks. and that's after 3 reviews, a 60, a 90, and a 95, and 100% review by our staff. And at the same time, since we do this over and over and over again, we know what it's going to cost at site plan level. So most of our stuff is guaranteed prices, where a client comes in, they say, we want to build here. We go through the site plan process. Those are your ranges, as $3 million 1 to $3 million 2. And once we get certain things in the civil ironed out, we guarantee a price and move forward. You never have to worry about that. But the reason why is we control the designs based on what's most cost effective and what market. And also we do our own steel, and that saves a lot of money. And we do that because we can control the quality, and we control the timing of it, and we can control the price. Because anytime you talk to a metal building contractor that's supplying, and we have our own, which is Cross Metal Building, 70% of their cost is materials. And so if you can control the cost of materials, I can usually beat somebody by 7 to 10% just in cost right off the bat, and we pass that on to ourselves and to our customers.
All right, next question. I noticed several things from your landscape plan. It showed an apartment, but I only heard you mention an office.
Oh, I'm sorry. We only ended up with an office on that particular deal. A lot of when I first got in this industry 30 years ago, and I can't even believe I'm saying that, we never did a project that didn't have an apartment office. Recently, and especially in the last 10 years, if you're in a major metropolitan area, you're in San Antonio, Dallas, or Phoenix, the apartments are going away. Now, if you're in a resident, you're kind of often rural market areas or smaller towns, they're still staying. But in most of the major metropolitan areas, that apartments is going away. And one of the reasons is because a lot of times it started out with a lot of people that were retired that were leasing those projects, and now we have a lot of younger people doing it. And a lot of people like to stay in their own house and get away from work, and if you live there, you're there 24 hours a day, even if you're off. So it's kind of get a heart of it. So it's changed over, and a lot of the real estate REITs, the public storage, a lot of them have changed over the last 5 years, and that's where it's going now.
The same person asked about RV and boat storage parking, which they did not see incorporated on your plans.
The reason why I didn't have RV and boat because it's not allowed anywhere in Orlando or that area at all. And not only that, the land prices are so high that you can't justify it. There's only one RV boat guy in the entire Orange County area, and he's called Big Boy Toys, and he's taken a warehouse and converted it up, and the prices are $1,000 a month, almost a store. So that's the only way to make it work, and he's full. But until you get way out of the cities, you don't see a lot of that, and it's unfortunate because Orlando's full of lakes everywhere. It's really hard to find a place to store your boat. We only had one other project that was done that we had to cover it completely, but the rents just didn't justify that, so basically it's being turned into self-storage units now.
Next question, where would someone start who wants to construct a facility?
The best thing to do is to find somebody that specializes in self-storage that's done it a bunch of times, because you're gaining the experience factor right off the bat. We do a lot of different things in construction here, but we specialize in self-storage. But if you were asked me to build a hotel right now, I'm not going to be competitive. And especially from the experience that we have in storage. Right now, I can tell you what it's going to cost before we even break ground. So I would find somebody that really has that experience, and they normally will have a design team with them that they work with constantly that already has worked out all the different designs. And all they have to do is, like we do a lot of times, we have some of the larger REITs that we go in and we do their entire portfolio, where we'll go in and come up with their own product line. And then it's modified over time as that product line grows and they go to different places. As an individual, I just find one of the guys that has the best capability of working in your market. Now, the great thing about self-storage is that about 80 to 90% of everything is you could build anywhere. It's more of the civil engineering that gets you into trouble. You really have to find somebody that really understands civil engineering for self-storage. We do that pretty much in-house ourselves, too, for that reason.
Do you use a particular scheduling or construction management software program to keep up with all of the details and progress?
We do. It's called ICPM. It's a web-based software. What happens is it does a daily report. We put together a CPM production schedule. The daily report, based on what's finished, automatically updates the CPM schedule on a daily basis. At the same time, it keeps a record of what happened that day, what subs were on the job, what happened, what was worked on,